Fellow tennis nerds, I hope all is well. This video is a personal one. I wanted to send a message to you guys, maybe to myself, for remembering the incredible Rafael Nadal, who retired yesterday. Incredible inspiration to so many tennis players and one of the greatest athletes of all time, of all sport, in my opinion. So I just wanted to make this kind of personal reflection, and I want to hear in the comments about your favorite Rafa memories from his illustrious and amazing career. 22 Grand Slams, Olympic golds, so many Masters titles, so many won matches, Davis Cup. He's won everything, pretty much, except ATP finals, but let's not think too much about that. He never really enjoyed playing tennis indoors, and you could see that yesterday against Botic van de Zandschulp. When someone has a huge serve, that is when they could threaten Rafa. But as soon as you were outside, especially on clay courts, as you know, Rafa would tear you up. With his amazing topspin, his grit, his determination, just such a role model and an ambassador for the sport that it's tough to describe in words. Many people tried yesterday with different greetings from all over the world, with different athletes. Everyone wanted to chime in and give Rafa a nice send-off on his last day as a professional tennis player. Players like Roger Federer, but also, you know, celebrities, athletes of other sports. And it's tough to put into words how much Rafa Nadal has meant for tennis. It was a pretty moving moment. I wish I could have been there in Malaga, but tickets were super expensive and they were tough to come by. But it was nice to watch it on TV with my buddy Carl Adrian, also a Rafa Nadal fan. I met Rafa a few times. I also played doubles with Tony Nadal once in a Pro-Am. To me, Rafa is just such a genuine character, genuine person. And I think one of the things that stand out with him is his humility. Also, humility facing the challenges he did, partly physically, because his body tended to break down, and we thought he would retire 10 years ago, or maybe even before that. But he kept fighting, and this is what makes Rafa Rafa, right? So I was fortunate to see Rafa play live, watched a lot of his practices, which always stood out to me with his amazing intensity. He was always so focused, he was giving everything into every shot. It's something that you can really learn from as a tennis player, because it's easy to get lazy, as we all know. But he always came there ready to work hard, ready to practice, and ready to do what it takes to win tennis matches. For me, it's challenging to choose one Rafa memory. When Tennis Warehouse asked me this question, I went back to just earlier this year when I went to the Swedish Open in Båstad, and I watched Rafa play 4 matches. And it was clear already from day one that he was a bit slower than I'm used to seeing him. Hadn't seen him live for a few years. And that he struggled a little bit physically with timing and so on. Tennis is a sport that moves fast, and when the body starts saying no, it starts becoming more and more challenging to recover after tough matches, to practice with the same intensity he has for so many years. It's a little bit sad to see that. That's why I thought it was a good time for him to retire. It's much better to remember him as the beast and a warrior of a tennis player that he was, instead of seeing more matches where you just get a little bit nostalgic of old Rafa. But still, one of the things I wanted to point out with the Swedish Open was that he managed to win matches that he really had no business winning, which is one of those things that really stand out with Rafa Nadal. He never gives up. He keeps on fighting. He finds a way. Underrated by some, I would say, as a tactician, tennis strategist. He really read the game well. Maybe thanks to Uncle Tony, I don't know. Helped him surely to create a foundation for his understanding of tennis, because Rafa had excellent understanding of tennis. And I think he was also an excellent doubles player, great at understanding when to go to the net and volley. You would think Rafa is all about topspin from the baseline, running and running and running. That's how he entered the scene, 2004. 20 years later now, he has retired, but 20 years on the Pro Tour in one of the most physical sports in the world is just an amazing achievement, especially considering that your body has been holding you back for quite a long time and on and off throughout his career. He missed many slams due to that, but he should still be pretty happy with 22. I think it's a pretty good score, and his career has been nothing short of spectacular, obviously. But seeing him out Rafa his opponents at the Swedish Open was a fond memory for me, because that brought back all the memories, especially of his comebacks. Like the one that stands out, I think, in many people's memory, perhaps a recency bias, because there are many of these matches, but is when he's fought back against Daniil Medvedev at the Australian Open 2022. That was his last Grand Slam title, and he was 2 sets and a breakdown. Everything was curtains, I was ready to turn off the TV, but he came back and he won the match. And it's just insane. Like, there's no other words to describe how you can come back. And there's so many times when you've counted Rafa out, career-wise due to injury, match-wise because he's down on the score, and he manages to find a way. And that's really what stands out. And I think also on a personal level, his humility and always being ready to work hard, always not exaggerating his persona as a star athlete. And when he was asked this question during the ceremony, which was an emotional one in Malaga, he said that he wants to be remembered as a good person. I think this has been key for him throughout his career, and that's why he's so likable, because that seems genuine. Like, you really feel it also when you meet him, that he's a genuine guy. It's not like something that media polished him to be. This is who he is. He's always given pretty clever replies, despite back in the day a bit of a limited English. He could still give really poignant answers and make you think a little bit, and you could see the way he saw the world in the way he spoke and in his quotes. So I think that when he said that he wants to be remembered as a boy from Mallorca, as a good person, guy who was lucky enough to achieve his dreams, I think this says a lot about him as a person, and this really what will stand out besides the grit, determination, and the amazing attitude he had as a player. And on the bag that they made for him, the Rafael Nadal bag, this one over here, it said that he had broken 0 rackets. And I think this says a lot. I've broken more rackets than Rafael Nadal, and I've played far less tennis than he has. And I think it says something about his attitude and why he's such a great ambassador and role model. I completely understand people breaking rackets, but the way that Rafa has managed to fight his frustration and still be classy in press conferences, after losses, after really tough injury letdowns, I think says everything about who he is as a person and who he is as a tennis player.
You're probably the only tennis player ever to have never thrown their racket in anger, which is incredible. However, this wasn't the case when you would lose at PlayStation.
I came back to tennis thanks to Roger, the elegance, the flair, and the beauty that he brought to the sport. When Rafa Nadal came, kind of put a bit of a dampener on the whole Federer vibe. He was supposed to win everything all the time. But Rafa came and found a way, found like the kryptonite to Federer's game. The high topspin to the backhand, that was the scenario. And it was kind of a one-sided rivalry for a long time. And it was nice to see Federer manage to turn it back a little bit, at least fix some of the scores, because it was getting quite one-sided at one time. But overall, their rivalry, I think, is just showing something amazing about our sport. Like Federer's more polished vibe with the, Rolex sponsorships, the blazers he wore at Wimbledon and stuff like that. And then with Rafa's long shorts, sleeveless top, the bandana, clay everywhere, because he fights so hard for every point. And I think this was a kind of like a superhero contrast that we had in tennis, and the reason so many players flocked to the game, because we had those two guys, the contrasting styles, that later on also born like a third guy in Novak Djokovic, and maybe also a fourth guy in Andy Murray, that had to bring their game to some amazing superhuman level to be able to compete with Rafa and Roger. And in Novak's case, he even exceeded their abilities and achievements as sporting stars. So we've lived in the most amazing era in tennis. We should be very grateful for all these GOATs, all these amazing athletes. And now when they're slowly retiring, we still have Novak there going strong. We'll see for how long. But with Rafa, Roger, and Andy now retired, it gives you some time to pause and look back and think about the amazing times we've had and what it has done for tennis as a sport. And really want to say thank you, Rafa, for all you did for us and for all you did for the sport, because you brought us so much joy, so many good memories. It's even hard to single them out because there's just too much. And I hope Rafa also stays in tennis alongside Roger, and that they stay engaged. Please share your favorite Rafa memory in the comments. Have a nice day now, and don't forget to play some tennis.